to Mind Matters with Dr. Michelle. Today I'm talking with mother and daughter Q Jules and Simone Nunnally about parenting a child with a mental health condition, living with this condition, and how they learn to cope and work as a team. We're going to take a quick break. Share your thoughts on Facebook and Instagram at Mind Matters with Dr. Michelle. Welcome back to Mind Matters with Dr. Michelle, and welcome Simone and Q.
Hi.
How are you today?
Good, and you?
Good, good. So I'm so happy you ladies came in today. Before we jump right into it, I know we have some sort of sensitive things to talk about, but as I said earlier, you have learned to work together as a mom and daughter team, right?
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about your backgrounds first. Let's introduce you to the audience.
Well, I'm Simone. Performance name, actress name, Simone. I have a background story as, let's say, I want to put it in small words so that we can get into that. A talented kid who uses her mental health in a positive way.
Let's see. I am a talented kid's parent. I have a background in management. That's what most of my career is in, has been in management, business consulting. From that, I stopped working for corporate America to take care of Simone and to make sure I cater and nurture her needs. So I was home more often. In doing so, I took my corporate training and started business consulting for myself in fashion. And learned how to understand Simone and what she needed for her mental illness and what I needed also to learn how to cope and how to deal with what she had going on.
Mm-hmm. And so, Simone was diagnosed during you're 17 now,
yes,
correct? And so your first diagnosis, first mental health diagnosis came at age...
8.
At age 8. What was the first diagnosis?
Her first diagnosis was ODD, which is oppositional defiant disorder.
Mm-hmm. And so what was it that even prompted you to say, maybe we need to get some help before that diagnosis even came about?
Oh, wow. This takes me back. Simone had got in trouble at school, and I was like, oh, you're in trouble now. I was like, one thing I don't do is, you messed up in school. And I said, you're on punishment. We're going to talk about this. And I was like, you're going to get a spanking. And she was just like, I don't want a spanking. I'm like, okay, I don't believe in really whooping my kids. So I was like, but maybe I got to try something different because this isn't working. And she looked at me and she just started screaming. And it was fear in her eyes, as if I hadn't touched her. And we were actually getting out the car of my garage. And she was holding on to the car. And I'm like, girl, get in this house. And she had an episode of where I was going to attack her. And when she did that, and I looked at her in her eyes, I knew something was different, something was wrong. Mm-hmm. And I stopped. And I said, okay. And I stood back and I said, we got to figure something out. Something's not right. And at that point, that's when I called to get her some type of help.
Okay. Simone, do you remember anything about that?
I don't remember anything.
Okay. All right. What was your earliest memory of anything being just a little bit off or discomfort emotionally?
My earliest thing was telling the doctors that I saw things. That's my earliest, that's like as far as I can go back. Tell them that like I seen people, or sometimes they would tell me bad things, sometimes they'll tell me good things. So then as an 8-year-old, no, they weren't there. Me, now that I'm more spiritually inclined, I feel that they're not physically there, but spiritually they are there.
And so when did you get to that point where you were able to have that spiritual concept of maybe something really is here?
When I was hospitalized at Kingswood, and my pastor and first lady had came in, and they were asking me, like, well, do you see things? Do you hear things? And I was like, yes, I do. Like, I hear things telling me to do this, but then I hear another voice saying, no, don't do that. And I've always grown up in church. So I know who God is. I know what's right, what's wrong, and whatnot. And I don't know. But, like, within the last year, I noticed that I have a calling. And I don't know exactly what it is, but I know that I have one. And at times I see things and hear things that others may not hear. I see things that's like a warning to me, or like a warning to others, a warning to give to others. So it's just, then as an 8-year-old, no, I didn't know what that was. But now I feel that I know what it is. I feel that I have a clear view of what is going on in my head.
Okay. And Q, have you guys had a discussion about this? What do you think about that?
I think she's kind of spot on. Prior to the incident that I just spoke of, Simone will wake up in the middle of the night and scream of nightmares. And she would tell me the nightmares. And I am as well spiritual, grew up in church. And she would tell me these dreams of someone trying to attack her. And so at a young age, I taught her how to pray. And I told her, if you can't get to my room fast enough, or if you feel that you're in fear, the first thing you do is just call on your higher power. That's the first thing you do. If I can't get to you fast enough. And I taught her how to pray. So I do think that, if she has to have her own drive, her own walk with what her beliefs are. And so I support it.
Mm-hmm. And the fact that you can sit here and talk about this with such clarity is something to support. Unfortunately, this is not always the case if you go into the hospital and you give the same explanation.
Right.
As you may know. So we're going to talk more about this when we come back. Head over to @MyMedicine with Dr. Michelle. We'll see you in a minute. Welcome back to My Medicine with Dr. Michelle. So Simone, we were talking about how we know you can't just, walk into a hospital saying, maybe what I'm seeing and hearing, although you can't see them, I see them. We know what the outcome of that may be. So you started talking about ADHD. And
yes. So with ADHD, I was diagnosed with ADHD at a younger age. As I grow older, I study my diagnosis, and I don't like for people to put a label on me. I don't want to be a label. It's not a mental illness, it's a mental challenge to me. I just really think about those things, and as I was younger and I think about it, ADHD, I feel that should not be something that should be placed on a child until their brain is matured, until I feel as if you're 13, say you're in middle school, 6th grade, you should not be labeled with the term ADHD, because all kids they're hyper. There's no way around that. Mm-hmm. I was put on Concerta, which made me more calm and whatnot, and it helped me focus on school, but I'm a smart kid, but at the same time, I did have some challenges where I would finish my work and just be off the chain. But I'll finish my work.
At least you can
I had nothing else to do. I sat there with a piece of paper and a pencil. So it's like being labeled with ADHD. I wasn't so much okay with that, which was why I was so against taking medicine.
Mm-hmm. And Q, how did you feel about medication?
I was not against it. I just wanted to do more research. Once I did the research on it and I saw that it wasn't anything that was a controlled substance that she wouldn't get addicted to, I was okay with her taking it because I wanted her to excel in school. It started with a very low dosage, and it did help her. It helped her a lot. Then they wanted to increase the dosage, and that happened about 2 to 3 times. They kept increasing it, and then they increased it to the highest dosage, and it backfired. And it made her do a spiral downward.
Yeah.
And, we had to go back. And it's like, wait a minute, something's wrong, because she shouldn't be acting like this if you guys went up. And so then I was told, well, sometimes when the medicine is increased, that it will make the child offset and go backwards. So they decreased it and then added another medication to it. And at that point, I'm like, okay, I'm not a fan of her taking all these different medicines. I don't like her being a guinea pig. Mm-hmm. So I did go ahead and take the other medicine, though, just so we can get a handle on what the situation was. Because I didn't want to get him put out of school. I didn't want those issues, because the thing is, the schools are not equipped enough to deal with kids with mental illness.
And so, Simone, as you said, you don't see it as a mental illness, you see it as a mental challenge. So we know that sometimes there are external factors there that can contribute to our lack of emotional well-being, like abuse or just other factors that come up in our lives. Did you ever experience anything in your life, or was there ever anything that you believed caused you to feel unable to manage or feel mentally challenged?
As far as what?
Any history of abuse?
But as far as my mental challenge, as far as ADHD or
just
other things,
any type of anxiety, depression.
Okay. Now that I'm older, then I didn't really clearly see. I used to tell my mom, "No, that's not why I act like this. No, that's not why I do this." I was sexually assaulted a couple of times, actually. I let them manipulate me and blackmail me, and I grew to always feel that that was always my fault until I understood, hey, it's not always your fault. Growing up without a father, it's not so much that I needed him financially, but emotionally and mentally, I did need a father there. Those two played huge factors in my life, and now I'm at an age to where it's like, I don't need you. I met him, but it's like,
You're like, I have my mom.
I have my mom. That is both of my parents. To where, like, then I used to cry like, oh, I don't have a dad. To where now it's, I cry, why did I even meet you? And it's, I don't know. It had a lot to do with my depression, but I also battle with bipolar depression, where it's actually nothing really wrong with me, just sneaks upon me at times. Like, especially when times are rough at school, it just magically appears.
And so, Q, and I want to come back to that. Q, when did you find out that Simone was sexually abused? Like, how old was she?
I found out when she was 13. She was sexually abused when she was 12. Simone was acting out. I know the signs of a child who's sexually abused, but I never let her go anywhere. I never let her out of my sight. I never let her around anybody, you know. So it wasn't a question in my mind, and I always taught her to talk to me. You know, we were close, but she started along, you know, her normal diagnosis. She started was angry. The light was gone from her. The smile, the happy kid I had was gone, and I couldn't understand. At this time, we were calling the police out to our house 3 times a week. And then she went up telling the officer what happened.
Okay.
And the officer came up and said, your daughter needs to talk to you. And so it's about a year and a half later after it had happened. Okay. And then I understood the
and
behavior.
I know that had to be difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the police, they were coming out frequently because of arguments between you were lashing out.
She physically and verbally.
And so when we come back, we're going to talk about the most current diagnosis, and that is PTSD, correct?
Okay.
We're going to take a quick break, head over to @MyMatters with Dr. Michelle. We'll see you in a minute. Welcome back to My Matters with Dr. Michelle. So, Simone, right now, you're diagnosed with PTSD and bipolar depression, and you're not taking any medication, and you're not in any type of formal outpatient therapy. So, how do you cope?
Music. I cope with music. So, although I don't put out songs, which I have recently in the last 2 weeks. I did put out 4 different songs. But although I don't put out songs, I write them down. I also, with school, I was in Citywide Poets. And with me, poetry is a lot to me because I can express myself in code without say if someone who's not in poetry, I can express myself with code without anyone knowing. I can use other terms. I can speak in third person. I can use objects. I can use animals. I can use plants. And no one will ever know what's going on within me besides the poem. So I use poetry and music a lot. This just sits in my notes, though.
Yeah. And so Q, Simone has said a lot, and you as her mom, the closest person to her, how do you cope? How do you feel about her not taking any medication and not being in formal psychotherapy?
Child, it is a battle.
Okay. But you're sitting over there so calm.
It is a battle. I would prefer that she was in therapy. But I have to respect her choice and her decision. She is a young lady who will be grown shortly. I just have to support it. And as long as I see her making healthy decisions and I don't see her in a dark place, then I know that she's okay. I always explain to her that mental health is just as important as your physical health, if not more. Because if your mind isn't right, your body can't be right.
Absolutely.
And people don't understand that. They think that there's something wrong with it. Well, going to therapy, but it's not. It's maintenance. That's all it is.
That's all it is. It's a coach.
It's a checkup. It's just like when you go to the doctor or to the dentist for your 6-month checkup. That's it. For myself, my coping, I talk to somebody. You know, as a parent, this is not easy. There have been times where I've wanted to give up. There have been times I've questioned God. Why? Why my kid? Why me? You know, what is the purpose? You know, and I've come to the point where now, at this stage in my life, I no longer question and ask why. I ask, what is my purpose? What am I doing with this now? And at this point, it's to tell our story. It's to help, you know, like I said, if I'm to a year and a half later, for her to tell her story so another young lady doesn't go, or boy doesn't go through this and doesn't say something.
Yes.
Or for a parent who wants to give up.
And Simone, it sounds like you have some awareness for when your symptoms are kicking in. And like when you mentioned bipolar, and you gave the example of when you're at school. And so for you, Q, are you aware of when maybe she's not as stable as she is right now and something needs to happen?
All the time.
You're aware of it. So what, do you guys have a plan in place, you know, where you can communicate with each other?
I personally feel that there's no need for a plan. I know when it's just bipolar depression, and I know the difference between bipolar depression and when I'm actually depressed. Bipolar depression, I'll sit on a wall and just cry, or I just sit in the bed and just cry without a reason. Like, I'll just cry. That's how I know it's like, okay, there's nothing wrong with me. It's time to just put some headphones in my ear and listen to music and go to sleep. And the next day, back to normal, back fine. So I haven't been depressed to where like, I haven't been depressed. But like bipolar depression, like I said, it's natural to me. It's just my life. It's give and take. Like the other day, I cried. And just like, and people were asking me what's wrong with me because I deleted social media. I did get activated in my socials. Like everything, I stopped talking to people for like the last 2 weeks. In school, I didn't say hi. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't say anything. I just walked with AirPods in my ear. And people thought it was something wrong with me. And I'm just like, no, it's really nothing wrong with me. It's nothing that can be solved. Just, you know, it's life. And it's just something you got to deal with.
Well, I mean, Simone, clearly you've learned to cope a lot on your own, is what you're saying. But I do think there's a need for a plan in place because it would offer comfort to both you and your mom. Because remember, you're working together as a team. Your mom is not, you know, saying, hey, you have to take this medication. You must go to therapy. So there's a lot of negotiating here, right? So what about if you don't fully recover that next day, within 24 hours, you make a plan, you know, you write it down and you say, I'm going to talk to my mom. And she has that trust that she knows, okay, Simone is fine. And when she's not fine, if it lasts more than a day, she's going to come and talk to me. You can't do that.
I don't like talking about it.
Or write it down. You like to write. You're an artist.
Yes. It's different. You guys, I don't know how to really explain it. So, like, when it's me and it's my turn to talk, I really don't want to talk because I'm not saying that I'm wasting my time. It's just reassuring that my mom that I'm okay. But at the same time, to me, it's like, what am I talking about? What am I telling? What am I saying? What is there for me to tell when there's actually nothing wrong with me? Like, I'm not, like, there's nothing wrong with me. Like, right now, sitting here, I can just get a wave of just sadness and then go back to smiling in 5 seconds. It just really depends.
She will, but you're right. It is too much pressure. I totally agree.
Well, I want to say, as we wrap up, you ladies, you are working well together. I mean, you're both sitting here, you're allowing her the freedom, to offer her perspective, and you respect it. And I think that comes across very, very clearly. So, I commend you with what you're doing now, and Simone, how you're managing. Still make a plan, but you're doing great. Okay.
Thank you.
So we're going to take a quick break. Head over to @MyMedicine See you in a minute. Thank you for watching. Today, I challenge you to go about your day as if your dreams have become reality. Try it and see what happens. Head over to @MyMedicine to share your thoughts about today's episode and more. Improve your mental health, improve your life. See you next week.